Superstorm Sandy ravaged this community. The storm decimated my building. We were without power, elevators, and critical supplies for months.
So even though it's been 10 years, right, the memory is vivid for so many New Yorkers hardest hit by Superstorm Sandy. The city broke ground on a new resiliency project to protect Lower Manhattan from storm surges. Listen.
Once this is in place, movable flood walls will protect the Two Bridges neighborhood of Manhattan when needed.
Now, Superstorm Sandy was a wake-up call for the city about the vulnerability of our infrastructure. A recent report shows that the city is moving at a snail's pace when it comes to making improvements. So New York City Comptroller Brad Lander has released a report that he joins us this morning with more information on those findings. So good morning, Comptroller. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Hazel. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
So nice to be with you.
Great to have you. You know, it really is hard to believe that it's been 10 years. Parts of the city are still dealing with the damage that Sandy left behind. And the city got $15 billion in federal grants for Sandy recovery. But I'm sure a lot of people who are still suffering are wondering, where did all that money go?
That's right. Well, of course, not all of it has even yet been spent. Of the $15 billion you just mentioned, we've spent $11 billion. And there's some good projects. I was out in the Rockaways this summer, and you can see significant coastal investments out there. But that means we're only 73% of the way through the money 10 years later. And when you add in city money, some projects like that East Side Coastal Resiliency you were looking at, only 13% complete. And some projects we project, like our Race Shorelines project, are going to take till 2030, but wow. The storms are not waiting.
No.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, since Sandy, the city has installed, like we talked about, 30 flood sensors citywide. The Parks Department's completed 100 Sandy-related capital projects, right? And when you look at Lower Manhattan specifically, I was down there reporting during the storm, and the water came in lightning speed. So is this, what has been done, enough to get us through another storm like Sandy?
Not yet enough. I mean, again, that work is good, and, you know, we're proud of all the things that have happened. But you said, and we all felt this way, that it really was a wake-up call. We can all think about where we were at that time. You know, my tree, a 100-year-old tree, fell on our house. Yeah. That happened 5,000 places around the city. We said, we're waking up to the climate crisis. We've got to do investments rapid enough. And here we are a decade later, and there's still many parts of our city vulnerable. And as the sea levels rise, only getting more so.
Yeah, well, that's very unsettling. The city's new coastal resiliency project will protect residents living on Manhattan's Lower East Side. But like you said, the rest of these projects may not be finished for another 8 years. So what's going to happen in the meantime?
Well, what's going to happen in the meantime is that New Yorkers are still vulnerable. Now, we saw in Sandy people mobilize in neighborhoods, and one recommendation we're making, in addition to speeding up our capital projects with new processes like design build, is to invest in the community groups that get neighbors resilient, know where vulnerable seniors are. So we've taken some good steps, but we have not yet really fully woken up. And that's going to take faster investment in our capital projects and more investment in our communities.
You know, obviously, since Sandy 10 years ago, there's been several more storms that have flooded out New York City subways, certain neighborhoods in Queens, right? And we're seeing these improvements, but as you have that $4 billion that hasn't been spent, more money has to be spent for those other storms as well. And then some people want things done in a New York minute, and they're saying, what's taking so long?
That's right. Well, look, the aperture of the disasters, the climate crisis, have widened. Hurricane Ida didn't hit our coastal communities. Yeah. They flooded, you know, places like 4th Avenue in Brooklyn or other parts of Queens that aren't on the coast. And, you know, we saw this summer in Northern Europe and the Northwest United States devastating heat waves. And that requires a different set of investments in cooling centers. So, look, you know, it's not easy to make change, but we said it was a wake-up call. We got to use the 10-year anniversary to make us move much faster. So we're more ready, whether it's a hurricane that hits the coast, whether it's a flash flood like Ida, whether it's a heat wave. Investments we make in our communities now will save lives and billions of dollars when those next storms hit.
You know, so your report calls for more transparency, right, to be able to track the progress of these projects. So what does your plan actually look like? Yeah,
the city set up a tracker after Sandy, but all it tracked was the federal dollars. You mentioned that $15 billion, we spent $11 billion, but the city, of course, invests a lot of city money and state money in those projects, and we don't have a tracker for actually how far along are the projects themselves, which is, of course, what you actually care about. If you live in a neighborhood, you want to know What's the investment in my neighborhood? Did I get some chance to talk about it? And how is it going? So we have recommended, and we passed a law when I was in the city council, and we're working with the administration to implement a capital projects tracker that will track all city capital projects, resiliency and otherwise, regardless of where the money's coming from, so you can know how it's going, and so we can genuinely hold ourselves
and there was a big wake-up call, too, for people who wanted to get their money to help make some of the necessary repairs to their personal properties, right? And I know that's more on the federal side with putting those things into FEMA. But how is that looking in terms of turnaround time to make sure things are processed quickly?
Well, I'll give you one example. Hurricane Ida hit more than a year ago. It took over a year for the state to stand up what's called disaster case management. There are federal dollars that should be available to help people right when the storm hits. But if it takes us a year to get the contract in place, that's not what people needed. So one thing we're calling for is standing disaster case management contracts that are written before disasters happen, so groups know what they need to do, and then when it happens, they can mobilize within days, not within a year.
Yeah, hopefully the changes will happen sooner than later. Controller Brad Lander, thanks again for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Always great to see you, and always great to talk about the ways New Yorkers are trying to come together to keep each other safe.
Absolutely.